To go back to the name Shit Art Club, I mean, that's like kind of where it all started, was us drawing these turds in class. People didn't like it. The kids that we were with did not like it. The deans did not like it. We were kicked out of art class. They just ratted on us, basically. Unfortunately, Miss Shafransky got fired. We got kicked out of art. We don't really know the full like reason why they fired her. I mean, I guess it kind of came down on like us being that big of a problem.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, the better business.
Go with your gut.
I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders.
But what she did do was change the course of our lives, you know?
This project, Shit Art Club, started from genuine creative expression in high school. But from a high school rebellious art project, it grew into a thriving artistic community in downtown Los Angeles. Dedicated to genuine creative expression, Shit Art Club rejects conventional form and function, embracing authenticity and anarchy. The collective invites everyone to join their creative crusade, fostering a space where beauty and discord coexist harmoniously. Their journey from a paint-soaked backyard to a vibrant hub in Skid Row exemplifies their commitment to real, unpretentious art that challenges norms and celebrates the true essence of creativity. But let's start before all that, back at the beginning.
Did you have any interest or like proclivity towards art or creation? Or do you remember like any of your early memories of what an artist or even art meant to you growing up?
My mom went to school for art. She was a sculpture artist at USC. So I grew up with art everywhere. If you go to my folks' house, you could see why my art style looks like this. There's Dr. Seuss sculptures and paintings everywhere. There's a lot of Peter Max. It's a very creative and playful atmosphere, I guess, that I was raised in. So naturally, it had its effects on me.
Did your mom ever try to teach you sculpture like early on?
We kind of always did hands-on stuff. Yeah, I started doing ceramics at a very young age. We didn't have like kiln at my house or anything like that. But in terms of playing with clay and taking art classes external from school, we did that all growing up for sure. Yeah. I probably started doing sculpture stuff when I was, I don't know, I want to say 8 maybe. And then in terms of like drawing and painting my entire life.
Do you remember like what you were most drawn to growing up? Because I mean, I'm looking at your like everything around here, and there's like stages, there's sculpture, there's also paintings. There like it feels like every medium, and then there's somewhere it's like all combined together. So when you were growing up, do you remember combining all of it, or was there like a main focus when you were like really early?
I've kind of always been into different things, and maybe that's like why I haven't been able to focus on one thing for so long. But no, not really. I mean, I loved going to ceramics class. I loved painting, and they were kind of two different things. And at some point, I guess I decided to start mixing them together and get paintings like that, you know? But in terms of being drawn to one or the other, not really. Kind of any form of creating felt good. My uncle's also a carpenter, so I've done a shit ton of woodworking with him.
Do you remember when you were growing up, did you make stuff too?
Yeah, birdhouses, things like that, you know, very basic stuff, but you get to learn how to use a hammer and nail and a drill and all that kind of stuff.
Do you remember your parents, like, did they like push you towards anything or like support you in any of your interests?
I was always intrigued with art, and we always went to art exhibits. I never really thought of like becoming a full-time professional artist, because I think when I was growing up, and still to this day, I'm not sure that people push that as a really smart career for kids. You know what I mean?
I mean, your mom studied sculpture.
She did for sure. Yeah. I mean, they're the most supportive parents you could ever have. And you know, whatever I was into, they were stoked on. So they didn't really push me towards doing art. They didn't really push me towards doing math or anything like that either. They kind of just let me live my life. And then my passions, I kind of followed them. I grew up playing a lot of soccer too, and a lot of lacrosse. So that took up a lot of my time.
So how did that interest and that like creative expression and sculpture and ceramics and painting develop as you got a little older, maybe like towards like middle school and high school?
Middle school, I just kept on taking those classes. High school as well, and that's actually where I met my business partner.
How do you guys meet?
We met in painting class. Yeah, our teacher was named Miss Shafransky, which now the name of our nonprofit is Shafransky Art Foundation. It was a very free place. She was a hippie. Like, I think the first day of class, we like went out and talked to the trees and like talked about how it was feeling and how it made us feel and how that would translate into our art. But that class was a little bit of mayhem. We were in the back of the class and people listened a lot and we didn't listen that much. And we were kind of had an odd way of doing things. We would build ramps and pour paint down the ramps and then take a piece of tape and roll the tape off the ramp through the paint into the canvas and just be doing weird things like that. We started drawing and painting on tables. That class was ridiculous. I mean, in that class, I actually, to your point of having different mediums, for that class, I actually built a platform. It was a wooden platform on wheels. I built a brick wall on that platform, and then I painted both sides of it, and it was like this sculpture. I got in trouble for that, but
Why are you get in trouble?
yeah. So there's this famous picture of Audrey Hepburn smoking a cigarette, and on the back of the wall, I made a stencil of her doing it, and the three colors that were coming up, instead of just being black smoke, it was red, yellow, and green. So for some reason, they associated that with weed, which I thought was ridiculous, just because it's colors.
What did you feel like when you were making this stuff? Like, what did it feel like to like build that?
I always wanted to make things that were different, that didn't really look the same as what everybody else was doing. If people were painting on a piece of canvas, I wanted to paint on a door, things like that. And I don't know, I guess I was tagging walls at that point.
Like,
I actually got in trouble for it. Yeah.
Like were you like going out on the street?
Yeah. I actually, when I was younger, I actually got arrested for it. It sucked.
How do you get arrested? What was the story behind there? Like, where
Just
were you?
being a kid, you think that you can spray paint in the middle of the day, but really you should have gone out at 3 a.m.
What
Yeah,
happened?
I was
Can you
not
tell me
that
the
far
story?
from the house. Yeah, I was with another friend. We were probably 14, and I had a backpack full of spray paint. We run down, my folks' house is on this big hill. We run down this hill, and there's this tunnel that's underneath it. So naturally, the tunnel was a good spot to paint. So we painted there for a little while. We're having a grand old time. We keep going up this trail, and we get to this community park. And on this park, there's those classic park benches where it's just like a concrete bench with 3 seats around it, And I basically painted this face where the eyes were on top and then the lips were on the bench, and like there were these hands kind of coming out of the side. And I saw a cop like come up, and he was pulling around, and I was like, oh, fuck, this isn't good. So I took off running the way away from the cop, and then another cop came up the hill, and they just arrested us both. They only found the park bench. There was plenty of other stuff we had spray painted on that day. I wasn't that nervous. I mean, I don't know. I was a little worried about what was going to happen.
It was there's like graffiti where it's like, marking territory.
It wasn't that.
Like, yeah, there's like there's that kind, and then there's a lot that is just like creative expression, like pure creative expression. Like, this is art, right?
Fully, 100%.
What do your parents think? Were your parents pissed?
Yeah, they were pissed. I was grounded that whole summer for sure. I had to do, I don't remember how many hours, but at least 50 hours of community service, which isn't that many, but for a kid. I didn't have to like go to juvie or do anything like that, which is nice.
So when you went back to school, like, were you still doing that art class?
Yeah, so back to school, I was still doing that art class, and then that year was great. I think my junior year, we took painting too. And things started to get a little bit more out of control.
Out of control in what way?
We were probably writing things we shouldn't have written on our canvases, and
like what?
I don't know, like pube salad, or like drawing big turds on them, like that turd right there. To go back to the name Shit Art Club, I mean, that's like kind of where it all started, was us drawing these turds in class. Like at one point I had a big nose on a canvas, and it said "sniff my turd" or something like that. People didn't like it. The kids that we were with did not like it. The deans did not like it. We were kicked out of art class. They just ratted on us, basically. Unfortunately, Miss Shafransky got fired. We got kicked out of art.
Shafransky got fired for...
Shafransky got fired We don't really know the full like reason why they fired her. I mean, I guess it kind of came down on like us being that big of a problem in her class, which is very unfortunate. Something we're not proud of. But
What did it feel like to learn that? Do you remember like the moment that you learned she was fired?
we found out a little bit after the fact and we felt horrible about it. I've tried to get in touch with her to let her know that we've named this nonprofit after her, and it's been operating now for like 3 to 5 years, which is beautiful. But I don't think she's alive anymore. I called my high school. I left multiple messages. I sent multiple emails and got no response from anybody about trying to find the whereabouts of her. So it's, yeah, somewhat of a shame in that instance. But what she did do was change the course of our lives. And I think at that age, like we were so young, you're just a rebellious teenager, you're a lot of things are first. You're listening to punk rock and you're going full speed, you're going through puberty, you're going through all that stuff. Like I don't write messed up stuff on my paintings anymore, but like, did it get me where I was going? Maybe.
You have this teacher that kind of unlocks the door for you. You meet some of your friends who would eventually start Shit Art Club. How does it actually start? Like, how do you start working together?
Yeah, so we went to different colleges. I went to school in LA. I went to LMU, and then Zach went to Boulder. My friend John, who actually I said he has nothing to do with Shit Art Club, but he's the one that we were creating work with when we were in high school.
Did you guys have like different names that you went under?
Yeah, Zach went by Loser Angeles in the beginning. Now he goes by Zach Hoffman, which is his actual name. John, we just called him whatever the hell we wanted. I call him Johnner. But yeah, he's a sick graphic designer now. Peter Pan is Lov. So he also went to high school with us, but he's not a visual artist. He is a musician and he's a writer. So when Sack started, he was the music part of it. But yeah, to get back to your original question, we went to different colleges and we were both creating. I went to school for graphic design. I painted a ton. I did a bunch of sculpture. I took 3-dimensional design. I took ceramics. I took all the things I like to do.
So how did you expand doing your own work in college?
In college, it was kind of all over the place. I guess I was learning more at that point, like a lot of the computer stuff because I was graphic design. But in 3-dimensional design, you touch on a little bit of everything in that class. We did woodworking. I built this basically it was like a planter box out of wood. And then I built this mushroom that was like 4 feet out of ceramic that I put in the planter box. So like that was one project. Another project was wire. So they teach you how to take like all this thin wire. And what you can do is you can cut like 20 strands, you put them all in a drill and you tie off one end and you use the drill and it turns it into this nice cable. And then when you have that nice cable, you can basically, bend it into whatever you want. So the idea for that project was like pick something small that you're going to make massive. So I picked an exit sign. So I made this huge exit sign that was like, I don't know, 8 feet by 4 feet or something like that. Yeah. So I guess I learned a bit more about sculpture and messing with new materials in that class. That teacher's name was Tom. He was a legend. And then painting, I learned a lot about mixing paint. It was actually the first time I like took proper drawing. Drawing one was like drawing figures and drawing faces and stuff like that. I had kind of only done still lifes and things like that before. And then obviously the fantastical stuff that I draw, which is animals and childish feeling creatures. I don't even know what you want to call them, but yeah, I like to call my art these days kindergarten art. And then after college, I got a call from Zach. Believe it or not, I was with my wife up in the Redwoods on acid. It was weird as hell. And I got a call from one of my best friends that I hadn't talked to in years. And he's like, I'm moving to LA. And I was like, no way, dude. It's hard to have the conversation at that moment. But he ended up, I was like, whatever you do, because the timing was off by like 2 months on my lease. I'm like, don't sign a year-long lease. Like sign a month-to-month lease. So he did that. And we ended up moving in together. And then that is really where Shit Art Club like fully started. And
because what was he doing at that time?
He went to business school. So he's been a sick artist forever. He's never really taken art classes besides those ones we did in high school. I don't know if he took any in college. I don't think he did. But yeah, he works in the medical industry. So he sells medical supplies. He wakes up at 5 a.m. and puts on scrubs and goes and watches a gnarly surgery. And then he would come out here and then paint from 11 to 6, and then that was his days.
Dang. So basically, the medical stuff funded his ability to
100%.
to be able to do this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, same with me. That's why I have to do the landscaping and that kind of stuff. But when we moved in together, obviously we started creating again because it was only natural and we were there together. And when you have somebody around you that's doing something similar to you and they're constantly doing it. So in our case, he was constantly painting. It pushed me to paint more. Like after college, the 2 years before we moved in together, I didn't really do as much painting. So I wasn't doing it as much in college. I was trying to focus on my like professional life, which was graphic design at that point in the marketing world.
How did it feel to apply what you had been excited about to like a more corporate setting?
I think that's why I ended up moving away from it, to be honest, because I was doing more graphic design for people and creating it the way they wanted it to be. And I just don't have fun doing that. It's almost like being in handcuffs and painting at the same time. It's like you have these ideas and these things you want to do in a way you want it to look, but the client doesn't want it to look like that. And the client needs it to be like this. And it's just, I don't know. It's like a ball and chain. I hated it. And I was like, I'm over this, dude. I don't want to keep looking at a computer. I need to find another way to make money. So I started working in field marketing for the beverage industry. This is all the while I'm living with Zach and we're in that place. And at the same time, we're trying to get our art into galleries and no one wants to show our art because
Why not?
you know, these days you got to have a roadmap. You got to have your CV. You got to basically have, you know, a history of shows that you've done before people give you a chance. No one wants to take a chance on an artist that hasn't sold anything. So we couldn't get any shows. So we were like, you know, for lack of a better word, fuck it. We're going to start throwing our own shows. So we had this skate ramp in our back, like a little quarter pipe. The whole place was painted. I said I was working in the beverage industry. So I had tons of pallets, these pallets that like, you know, the product would come on and I'd have to deliver it or take it to these events. So we basically put up these pallet walls. It was 2 pallets stacked on top of each other all around our backyard and our front yard. We took all of the furniture in our house and put it on the front lawn. We took everything off the walls and we turned our house into basically an art gallery.
So that was like the first event that you...
That was Shit Art Show 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was not a company yet. We came to the name Shit Art Club because 1, we were drawing turds and stuff in high school and it just felt so wholesome. 2, we're trying to break down this high barrier to enter for the art world, you know, the finger sandwiches and, you know, neckties and white walls and a very sterile art space was something that we were trying to say, hey, art doesn't have to be put in this setting, you know? It can be more inclusive. It doesn't have to be so uppity. For that show, anybody that knew about it, that was an artist, we just let them put work up. And we didn't take any commission or anything. We just said, if it sells, you know, you do it. And it went really well. We probably had 20-something artists. Nearly everybody sold work.
What did it feel like for you to be at that event and like seeing it come to fruition?
It was like probably the coolest party I've ever been to. And even people that just went that weren't a part of it, then like they will tell you that exact same thing. It was like kind of ethereal. I don't know. It felt groundbreaking. You know, it felt like it had never been done, even though it probably had at some point in time. But it felt right. And that's how Lovs got involved. We asked, Lovs is Peter Pan, who you asked about. We basically he had this band called the Dancing Tongues that he was in. They were called the Gay Dads before that. And I'm not sure if they were still the Gay Dads at that point or Dancing Tongues, but they played the show. There was 3 of them. Yeah. And it was just ripping. There were people skating in the background.
What do the artists say after the show?
I think they say like, fuck yeah, when's the next one?
Yeah. So were you thinking like, oh shit, we got to do another one? Like, we have to like, formalize
at that
this
point,
thing?
I wanted to like make it a full blown company, but like we still didn't really know what we were doing or
And
how
what does
to
it
do
even
it.
mean to make a full blown company?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, I don't know. I guess establish it as an LLC and like try to look for a location where we can do things. But that was pushing it a little fast. Zach still wasn't quite sold on it. And then we like kept on doing things and people kept asking about Shit Art Club and we were making merch and selling it. And, you know, they're like, when's the next one? So then a year later, we did Shit Art Show 2 at someone else's house. That was in Laguna Beach. It was at his brother's house. And it was basically the same thing. I mean, it was live music. It was a lot of artists that we let put art up. We didn't take any commission or anything like that. And we just had a hell of a party. And it went really well. about a week after that, I was going on a 6-month trip with my now wife, then girlfriend, to Southeast Asia. And about a month and a half into the trip, I got a call from Zach saying, "Hey, dude, we made it a company. It's me, you, and Lovs, and we each have 33%. And right on, when you get back, let's fucking do this thing." So I was fired up, but I was traveling for another 5 months, you know?
Oh, so he made it when you were gone.
They made it
And
when I was
6
gone.
months. Wow.
Yeah, for 6 months. I
6
know.
months is a crazy amount of time for a trip.
It was a long time.
Why did you do it for that long?
Why not, man? You're only young once. YOLO. No, I don't know, man. I had taken a 5-month trip to South America right after I graduated, and it kind of transformed who I was as a person, culturally and physically, and just my views on life. It really changed who I was and what I thought for the better. So I talked to my wife about it for a while. That was right after she graduated. So she's like, "All right, well, let's do a trip." And we chose Southeast Asia.
What do you feel like you changed your mind about with your views on the world, the first trip, and then maybe like on the second trip?
I think they both play into it in different ways. I mean, the first trip was South America, and a lot of the poverty that you're in and things that you're surrounded by are eye-opening. I mean, Skid Row's eye-opening in itself, but it's a different kind of poverty when you're in a third world country and a different look and feeling.
Different kind of poverty. How?
Here, there's lots of poverty, but everything else is built up around it. And the reason for a lot of the poverty, especially down here, is mental illness and is drug addiction and things like that. There, it's just they don't have the means to build a successful life. It's shine shoes on the street. In the US, there's a little bit more opportunity. And then Southeast Asia, I mean, I had never been to Asia. Asia in general, the Eastern world, it just operates a lot differently, you know? I mean, all the way down from religion to the architecture to all that. I think everything has influence on you, you know? The things you see, the art you see. Being in Vietnam, traveling around, and I would paint a wall here or there. Even if what I painted was like pretty stupid and basic, it like blew these people away because they had never seen that much art. I mean, you can't find an art store in Vietnam, at least when I was there. Maybe in Hanoi, probably in Ho Chi Minh, but the reality is they aren't really brought up and go be an artist. They aren't brought up that way. So it's just, I think just seeing the way other countries operate, seeing what they value.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I imagine it's, I mean, you get like a whole other side of the world. And it sounds like you actually really ventured to integrate, which is, I think, what actually changed your mind when you travel.
100%. Getting immersed in the culture is super important when you travel. I don't want to go and do what all the tourists do. I mean, you know.
As you're going through Southeast Asia, are you able to think or do anything for Shit Art Club as you're going through? Or is it just like, okay, I know that's going to be there when I get home and I'll do it then? Or was there a part of you that was working on it while you were still traveling?
Both, because they wanted to start doing stuff. So they did like little setups at mini festivals and stuff where Zach just had his art and maybe they were selling some shirts here and there, like random stuff like that. The big thing for when I got back in October, and there's a big music festival here called Desert Days that, like I said, I was in the beverage industry. So I had worked with people in these festival settings, and I had worked with Desert Days when I worked for Boxed Water. So I got in touch with them and I was basically pitched them on this whole art experience. What we came up with was I think it was 10 by 10, basically a proper gallery inside of the festival where the out walls, there was 4 walls, each one featured a different artist from LA. And then if you went inside of it, it was just like paint and you could do whatever the hell you wanted. So it was like clean and proper on the outside, but the inside was chaos. So that's what I was working towards when I was gone. It was basically the logistics of talking with Desert Days and making that happen. And then right when we got back, I think we had 2 weeks and we had Desert Days to do. So we jumped right into it.
Were you paid for it?
No. We generated some money because we sold some art.
But that seems like the first like big collaboration.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one for sure. 100%. And we had brands at the first 2 Shit Art shows that donated product and things like that. Nobody gave us money. But yeah, people gave us beers or gave us water or whatever, that kind of stuff.
But what did it feel like to have your place at this, like, you know, popular event.
It felt like we should be pursuing this, and like basically we should be trying to get money next time. And
Because it costs money for you to put that up, right?
100%. Yeah, it costs money to start a business.
Do they cover cost of it or no?
Honestly, I don't think they did. I think we've been very effective at taking things that don't cost a lot or recycling things and turning them into something bigger. It's kind of been our business plan the whole time. So like the walls that we used and all that were old set walls that I think we got for seriously like $20 a wall. And then finding stuff on the street and like adapting it and turning it into stuff like the shit art van, which we had crashed into a tree there on purpose because it's all colored up and whatnot. It was our hangout spot. I traded that to my uncle for four 30 packs. So he got 120 beers and I got a 1988 Ford Econoline.
I feel like when you're starting, that scrappiness is what you
It
need.
was necessary for
Yeah.
sure.
So you have this event, it goes well, the event is happy, and you're back. So now it's like, okay, how do we actually make this sustainable, right?
Yep. So we're like, we need to get a brick and mortar place. You know, one, we need a studio for us being artists, and two, we need a place to either host these events we're doing and or have a gallery to show the work.
Yeah. So what year is this now?
2018, I want to say. It took us over a year. So we were viewing all different places downtown. First, we wanted a warehouse in El Segundo because we're like, let's be by the beach. We're beach people. We want to be by the beach, you know, but it just was, those are few and far between. You have to be super lucky to get into those. And, you know, most of them are going to have a 5-year lease too. You're not going to be able to just be like, oh, we don't know how well this is going to work.
So what were you doing? You said you were looking for this place, like a studio for like a year. What were you doing while you were looking?
We were just making shirts. We did like basically activations places. At this time we did the All Stars Kung Fu Expo, which was, we had a buddy that has, it's not there anymore, but he had an auto shop in Vista and it was connected to this brewery, which doesn't exist anymore, called Beach Grease. So we went down there, we built this like huge structure that you could like walk through and interact with in his auto shop. And then next door, we set up a stage and we had bands come and play at the brewery. So we were doing random things like that. We did a fire that same year before we had this place. There was really bad fires in LA and they burnt down, you know, tons of stuff all the way up to Ventura from Malibu. It just torched shit. And so we did like a fundraiser for fire relief. Yeah, we were just kind of doing random things. We were sponsoring music shows. So like our buddy Lobs would basically be putting bands together for a venue and then basically acting like a promoter, getting a little bit of money that way. Yeah, but it was clear we needed a space. I mean, you know, it was hard to generate funds without the space.
Yeah. And I feel like it adds like credibility and structure. So when do you eventually find the space?
Yeah, so I was like sitting on this bench at my house with Zach on the computer and we're just like searching Craigslist. And I don't know why I had the idea to get on Google Maps Street View. And like I see this place with the gates rolled up and there's just a number on it, just like a phone number. And it just says call, like available for rent. I call this number.
Also, like Google Street View, like could be years ago that they took it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was.
You don't even know if the building's still there. Let
No,
alone
exactly.
the sign.
Exactly. So I call this number and the guy's like, hey, like, what's going on? It was the owner of the building. And I'm like, I got your number from Google Street View. He's like, what? He's like, I've had an agent for this property for 2 years. My number hasn't been on that door in 2 years. Anyways, I talked with him and we basically ended up working out a deal. We came and viewed the place and he was super cool. And yeah, we ended up moving on in here. It was an old cell phone shop.
But you saw a vision for like what it could be.
Oh, for sure. We ended up making that the studio. And then we tried to make this the gallery slowly but surely. Amongst doing other events, like the very first thing we did was a movie release for Ian Crane, who's a pro surfer.
So once you had the space, that was like one of the first things you did?
That was literally the first thing. I think we got the space in like the beginning of October, or we got it in September of 2019, and we had his party like the middle of October.
What was that party like? And like, how did you put it together? How did it feel different than the ones that you kind of had done ad hoc?
Obviously, it gave us our location, which was nice. That one was less centered around the art. It was like we just had a projector with the movie going up here. He had his friends DJing. There was a lot of pro surfers and beautiful women. And that was just like really like a quick stepping stone. We didn't put that much into that. It was just like, okay, we can do this with Crano and generate a little bit of money and then figure it out. We're trying to figure out who's going to do the first art show. So they somehow decided on me. I don't even know if I decided on me. I was like, I have no work and I paint the slowest, but you guys want me to do it? Let's do it. So we did this show called Church of Chang, where it was my first solo show. We built all these church pews. We built like a mini stage there, and then going into the back room, we made a vagina that you had to crawl through to get into the back room, and then the back room was like a vulva and like a cervix and like all of that, and then you were in the womb the further back you got. If you still go back there, you can see these sperms that are drilled to the roof. There were like sperms everywhere. I gave like a full like 20-minute sermon. It was an interesting one. I was painting the wall outside, and I'm just like tagging it up. I'm writing Church of Chang on it, and this cop pulls out. He pulls over, he gets out, and he's got his hand on his baton. And I don't know this is happening. I'm painting, and Zach's just filming. He doesn't even say anything to me, fucking shithead. He's just waiting for me to get clocked in the head with this baton. Guy comes up and puts his hand on my shoulder, and I'm like, oh, like, you know, what's going on? What's going on? We end up rapping out with this cop. The cop's like, oh, like I used to write. And he's like, oh, this is your guy's wall. You run this space. He's like, yeah, he's super cool. Ends up taking a photo with me in front of the tag. Like, and I'm wearing like this like genie outfit almost. That's when we were like, all right, maybe the cops in downtown are actually pretty damn cool.
I feel like they have bigger things to worry
Exactly.
about.
Exactly.
So what did it feel like to have your show like in this space?
It was great, dude. It was huge. Yeah, it was a big space. You know, I had never shown work in this massive a space before. It was a lot. And I made all the work in about a month. So I lived in here basically, you know, and going home at 4 a.m. and getting back in here at 11 a.m., 10 a.m. and just doing it over and over and over again.
Were you basically on Shit Art Club full time?
Yeah, kind of. The thing is, with my work is I've always been an independent contractor ever since I left the beverage industry. So I can kind of pick and choose my battles. So if I have a show coming up, then those 2 weeks before I'm doing art the whole time for sure. And then, you know, vice versa. If I need dough and I don't have a show coming up, I'm probably the whole week doing landscaping.
What are you looking towards to like further legitimize the space, to further build momentum here?
Yeah, so we're still trying to come up with like a full business plan. Like what exactly makes us money here? Is it selling art? Is it like having these parties that people come to and they get immersed in and they like, you know, one thing that's been constant this entire time is the positive feedback. Money aside, everybody that comes to anything we do, they seem to really enjoy it and really like it a lot. I mean, even the last show, I thought Michelle Coltrane was going to have this place packed to the brim. It was not that many people. There's probably 40 people, you know, which isn't minor, but it's not as many as I thought. And everybody really enjoyed it.
Where do people find out about your events when you do one?
Yeah, so we have an email list that you can get on by going to our website. Instagram is always super up to date, word of mouth and flyer placement. At one point we got a billboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quick, but yeah, so we were still trying to kind of figure out what to do. Like we had a buddy that we rented studio space to, so that brought a little bit of money in. My show actually did really well. We sold like 60 to 70% of the work. They were priced really low, so it's like we didn't make a ton. And at that point, we were trying to we still were working out the commission split. We were trying to take 30% as a gallery at that point, which is incredibly low. Yeah. So it was rad for the artist. That show, I got to keep 70% of my sales, which was amazing, you know, but on the business side of things for SAC, it didn't make sense. By the time we did the next show, we're like, this doesn't work. We tried 35. 35 didn't work either. That was Shit Art Show 3. Shit Art Show 3 was the most people that have ever been in this building since we've had it. And that was right before the pandemic. It was the end of January. I think we could legally probably have around a little over 300 people in here. And my guess is there was probably 5 or 6 that.
Wow.
It was so packed that it was uncomfortable. It was like shoulder to shoulder, like sardining everywhere.
That's sick.
It was insane. And we were like, okay, these events are going to make us a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Cause how much should you bring in that event?
Like 18 grand, maybe.
In one day.
Yeah, it was amazing. We've never got close to that any event since.
That's crazy though. One day, 18 grand.
It was a lot.
And so things were incredible.
In the pandemic.
And then the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah, it smacked us. We were getting ready for another friend's solo show. So it was tough for a few years. The PBR Monster Children 1700 Nod thing saved us. They gave us a little bit of coin to take over their space.
What's that? What's Monster Children?
Yeah, so Monster Children is a magazine and now they're a creative agency, but they're based out of Australia. But they're huge in like the surf skate scene. And they teamed up with PBR to have an art gallery and office space that was just kind of like Chinatown on the other side of the historic Great Park. And PBR basically funded it and they managed it and ran it. And it was super cool. But yeah, we kicked off this residency program that they did during the pandemic because nobody could do anything. We built this amazing rocket ship that like went through their roof and we showed it for a weekend because that's all we could do at that point. And basically tried to figure out what to do next. Like, when can we have these big parties again?
Yeah.
Which we couldn't for a while. So we just moved through friends' solo shows and did appointment only and probably did like 7 or 8 of those until we got to the playground show, which is when we built the slide.
And when was that?
That was probably October of 2021, I believe.
And what was the playground show like?
That one was insane. It was probably, in my opinion, the coolest show that we've ever done. I think the art was wild. We showed artists from all around the world. It was really cool. And it was super packed. The music was really good.
It feels like the events are always sick. You've consistently been able to like create a unique experience every time. It's just that you had this momentum break. How did you think about building up that momentum, like going into 2022 and 2023?
Yeah, I think at the same time, we were still trying to figure out the winning formula because even though our events were doing well and we were having this great turnout and stuff, it wasn't really translating into monetary value. We weren't really getting that much money. And this has been a struggle for us pretty much ever since inception. I mean, the events have all been great, but the thing that you learn is more, the bigger the event, more money goes out. I mean, these themed things that we're talking about, think about all the money that goes into the builds, you know? So an 18-foot teeter-totter costs money, even if you're making it from scratch. Same with a slide and, you know, everything else.
Did you do like cover charges for people coming in too, or no?
We started to. We didn't at that one. Yeah, we started to with Shit Art Show 5, I guess it was. So then you put the money into redoing the space, right? And building whatever builds you do, or like if you're turning it from an ocean into, you know, a carnival, all the paint, like the floors all have to be repainted. Everything has to be redone. So all that adds up. And then when you're doing the event, you're paying the sound guy, you're paying the talent, you're paying the door guy, you know, so you're just, a bunch of money goes out. So even if the event brings in $4,000, you got $2,000 going out. You know, which is $2,000 profit's great. We don't usually do that.
These events are so unique. Are you like making like videos and like posting them and stuff?
We have people who have made videos of them in the past and we put them out for sure. I haven't done it as much recently. For sure. The promo and that is all stuff that, you know, could probably be done better. For lack of a better way of saying it. But yeah, it's been a long journey. And at this point, it's pretty much me doing everything. So it's a matter of what I have time for.
So when did Zach leave?
Zach just left this year. So he just left in February.
How is that for you?
It was, you know, it's stressful and it's a little sad, but I'm stoked for him and I'm happy that he's, you know, actually getting a chance at this professional art world thing.
Yeah, because he went to Portugal to do a residency for
residency. Yeah, so he's getting hooked up. They're paying him to be there. He gets a stipend and he gets a show at the end and he gets free studio space for 3 months. He's fully immersed in being in Europe and his art right now, which is probably the best thing for him, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, and then on the other hand, it was cool in the fact that I get this whole space to myself, you know? So it's like, this became my studio. I started painting out here a bunch.
So where is everything with Shit Art Club today? Like, what are your plans currently? What are you looking towards the future for? What are you most excited about?
I'm trying to get it at a place where I can put less work into it, and whether that be through collaboration or through, you know, just renting space to somebody, to where I can focus on my art and then keep the gallery in the front. That would be ideal.
And how much are you renting the space for now?
Well, it depends on what they want, but if they just want this middle room right here, because I want to keep that as Shit Art Club and I want my studio. And the nonprofit is actually going to rent the other half of the space back there, and we just launched a residency program. So we'll have different artists in here that have free studio space for 3 weeks, and then I'll create with them, and I'll create a little video around them.
And that's part of your foundation, right?
That's part of the foundation.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the foundation, we basically had the idea during the pandemic, and it was like, we should be trying to give opportunities to people that doesn't really have monetary value, because we have all these people that actually are pretty wealthy that we know donate to different nonprofits, and we may as well try to apply that to the art world. That was our thinking. The first year, I think we raised 50 grand, which was pretty damn good.
It's really
But
good.
the idea was basically to take each stage of an artist's life and then offer opportunities, resources, and guidance. So like the first program is for kindergartens to 8th grade. And then the second one is for high schoolers. The third is what we're calling young professionals, 18 to 30-year-olds. Then the fourth is 30 and up.
Mm.
Yeah. So really the main active ones right now, the first one is painting murals with kids. We've only done a couple of those. The second one, which is kind of our bread and butter, is for juniors and seniors in high school. What happens is they apply to a program, we pick them, and then we give them a 2-week course on things that we had to learn becoming a professional artist, things like writing a CV, writing an artist statement, artist bio, all that stuff, how to talk to galleries, how to approach collectors. We teach them all that stuff, and then we teach them how to install their work on a wall, which is what we've had to learn how to do being gallerists. And then we give them a 1-day art show at our gallery.
And it's cool to like foster that creativity because
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what, you know, your teacher did all those years ago. And now you're like passing on that gift.
Exactly. That's the idea. And the third one is basically grants that have to be used for studio space or art materials. That's for 18 to 30-year-olds. The fourth one, which was always going to be a 5-year plan, is funding a school's art program and paying for a teacher's salary and all
That'd
that,
be
so that
sick.
they can have an art program at schools that don't. We haven't brought in enough money to make that happen yet. We knew that wasn't going to happen for a while. So, and then in the interim, we do like anything that people ask. Not anything, but
So yeah, what's the project that you're working on right now? Or the next
for
one? 'Cause you
Shafransky, we
had-
just launched 2 programs. So we basically launched a program where we find successful artists and they donate a design to us for a shirt, and then we sell that shirt to people.
Yeah.
So it's basically a t-shirt program. 1, we're hoping that the artist can like raise awareness for Shafransky, and then 2, we're trying to generate some funds so we're not 100% dependent on donations. So that actually just launched last week. And then the residency program, which we just got approved by our board of directors, which will be giving 3 weeks of free studio space across from my studio. We'll introduce you to our contacts. We'll do a written interview, and then we'll put like a 30-second to 1-minute video about the artist. And then at the end of the 3 weeks, we'll give them a 1-day show here at SAC.
That's really exciting. I mean, it feels like you're becoming like not only a space, but feels like you're really supporting the community.
Trying to, dude. That's for sure. Yeah. So we'll see. And then in the meantime, I'm like trying to basically find someone to take over this space. If I can't find someone to take over this space, then I'll turn my half into a studio I rent out in the very back, and then this will become my studio. But ideally, someone takes over this space. If they want to do events, that's fine. If they want to do another art gallery, like a gallery within a gallery, I think that would be rad. And I think that'd even be a cool name for it.
Gallery within a gallery.
A gallery within. Yeah.
And then what is the next event that you have in this space coming up?
Yeah, so we have an art show this Saturday, May 4th. My good buddy Sam Rivera, who's a photographer, he's having his first solo show in LA. 2 weeks after that, on May 18th, I want to say it is, whatever that Saturday is, we have a rock and roll show. So they're doing that, and then I'm teaming up with this dude, Shimon Cassette, doing a show on the 1st, and his music is it's kind of like a mix of like hip hop and rock and roll and electronic.
So you're doing all these different events. You're really helping the art community by gifting the space in the back. What is your vision for what you want this to be?
I think it'd be really cool if it could just be a creative hub where people could come and spend some time and make some connections. And, you know, whether you're a musician and you need to get your music out there, kind of like what CBGB's was, you know, for New York, for the punk and rock and roll scene. Kind of like that, but for artists. But I'm not limiting it just to visual artists. Music has always been such a big part of our company that, you know, I'd love to give people a chance to play that have it. But the fact of the matter is there's not really that much, you can't make that much money doing that. So you gotta figure something out. Like I said earlier, like the thing that's pushed the most in terms of making me want to keep doing this is just the feedback that I've gotten. And it's everything from a jazz show to a comedy night to an art show. It's like it brings in different crowds, and everybody has this positive feeling when they come in here, which is, you know, it's cool. It feels good.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our audio editing team lead is Ashley Jimenez, with support from
Jessica Morales, Miley Lipton,
Siyu Pan,
Kenny Wright,
Josie Yo,
Matt Fernandez,
and Merritt Hill.
Our outreach and research team lead is Desiree Nunez, with support from Marissa Granados, Monica Lee,
Sarah Tiersma,
and Yao Liu.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.